Good morning, community. Good morning. Thank you for being here again another day. I'm grateful to be able to get up in the mornings, excited and looking forward to connecting with you, being better together with you, and being better together with God. And so, just welcome to another day. Of course, go ahead and greet our Queen friends that are joining us and check in right there at the video. And we're going to get ready to deep dive into RISPA and kind of give some context to the things that we've been studying this week, even as we're entering the room and people are finding their seats and getting comfortable wherever they're going to be with us on today, whether you're walking around your place, getting dressed for work, whether you're listening in the car, whether you're actually being able to sit and engage with us at your laptops or tablets or computers, wherever you are as you're taking your seat. I'm already speaking God's grace and favor over your life. God has such good intentions for you, Queen. Somebody hear that on this morning. God has such good intentions for you. He has so many promises that are in store for your life. And so I'm already getting in alignment with our study for this fall, where we're saying, Dear God, you've got mail, from the context of our faith siblings who sought God for a very long time. Like, these the queens we're coming for in this study, not minimizing those of us who perhaps received some responses to some of the things that we've desired from the Lord. That is like amazing. But this study is specifically targeting those women, those sisters of ours, those good girlfriends, those queens, the people here in the community who are saying, yes, God, you've got mail. I've been talking to you for a long time. I've been texting. I've been trying to get your attention. There are some things that I am yet believing for. And so for you, I speak over your life that yes, it took a long time coming for our queen sister Rispa, but it does come. Can somebody come on into that faith atmosphere already and say, but it does come. It did tarry for a while, y'all, but it did show up. It tarried. I mean, it drug its feet coming to pass, but it did show up. It showed up. And so for you on this morning, take heart. Be encouraged. I wanted to circle back to that scripture in John 16:33 that says, take heart because you've overcome the world. What does that even mean? Take heart means to be encouraged. It means to fix your face like a flint and not be moved. It means to do a stare down with the enemy and don't blink. Tell somebody who's sitting beside you in your mental imagery of us gathering together, don't even blink. It's take heart, be encouraged, don't blink, don't flinch, don't back down, because your faith is rooted in what God has said. So we're out here running already, y'all, because I feel the urgency of the end of the year being here. And I want us to hang in here until we see what God has said. I'm going to run ahead of myself and share with you. I was with a friend yesterday and he pulled up Tyler Perry's post. Tyler Perry was celebrating his birthday, and he wrote something. I'm gonna see. I put it in here so that I can remember to tell you what he said, because when he was reading it, I thought that's perfect for where we are in the community. Let's see if I can find it real quick for you. Basically, he was talking about how he had grown up, how he had experienced certain things, but he said in his post, "Please don't stop until you see your opposite." Please don't stop until you see your opposite. And he was saying that he was in the midst of poverty at that time. Many of us track his story. He was in the midst of homelessness. He'd had a whole lot of his plays and different creative projects be denied, not to be rejected, to not be accepted. And he just talked about how that happened for years. He was not a kid star. He didn't get his break in his teenage or early 20 years. Many of us who know his career path know that didn't begin to happen for him until just a few years back. And he's 54 years old. And so basically, he was encouraging those who follow him to understand that his journey took a while, but he did not stop until he saw the opposite of what he was currently experiencing. So for all of us, even on this morning, whether we take that from our faith sibling Rispa or we take that just from another person who's lived that journey, do not quit. I got to say it with some hand claps so y'all know that I mean it. Do not quit. Hang in here until you see what God has said about your life. So again, welcome to the community where we're over here being better together. all year long in 2023. We've been talking about being well and whole and examining different facets of being well and whole. But as we enter into fall 2023, let's level set for a moment where we're starting with this idea. Dear God, you've got mail. Basically, I've been trying to reach you. I got some concerns on my heart, some things that I am believing for, and I need you. Come on, somebody. I need you to show up. I need you to move on my behalf. If that is that anybody's desire, is there anybody in the audience who really could raise your hand and say, God, that's me. I got some stuff, man. Oh, man. I do not want to roll it over into another year. I want to see you deliver on your promises today. I want to see you come through. I want to see you do what only you can do. And I'm lifting those things up before you. I see some of you saying, that's me. That's definitely me. Whether that's in your homes, whether that's with your children. I mean, whatever that area is, you are believing God. I see you saying, that's me. That's me. That's me. Somebody say, that's me. I see some me's with some exclamation points. Listen, sis, do not quit. Do not give up on believing in the Lord. Welcome to the community. Again, I invite you to go ahead and check in on the video by hitting the like or the heart button. And while you're doing that, while we're gathering still, go ahead and drop a Queen friend's name in the comments if you're noticing that she's not here. And those of you who are putting into the comments even right now, that's me. Y'all don't know how much I am pushing my faith towards your situations, towards your circumstances. I see someone saying, Lord, that's me. Man, God, that's us. Hey, that's us. That's your daughters. We are right here gathered, and we are acknowledging that we want you to move on our behalf in the simplest of things, in the most complex of things. We need you to move. And for every woman who's lifting their hand and saying, that God, that's me. Lord, that's me. Lord, have mercy. Somebody say, Lord, have mercy. I need you to do what only you can do. I promise if I could have fixed it for myself by now, I would have. So God, I need you to do what only you can do. Let's go into RISPA real quick. Y'all, again, go ahead and tag Queen Friends. Wake them up. Let's check on one another. And I'm just pausing there and keep saying that because I know, I sense the season that we are in, and we are in the hard part, y'all. We are in the push part. We are in the stretching. We are in the moaning and in the groaning. We are in the teetering point where either I'm going to break or I'm going to quit. So gather your girlfriends, check on them. Let's be the community. Reach around. Look, if you don't see somebody who's normally here or somebody who the Lord is putting on your heart here, call their names. Y'all remember we agreed that we were going to watch for one another in this season. Wake them on up. Get them on into the space and let's go together. We've been talking about RISPA. We're going to continue to talk about RISPA. We're going to make this Talk to Me Thursday. So I already have one question that I'm going to speak to. And if you have others that are pertaining to the content, then we'll do that. And we'll stay with RISPA until we've worn RISPA out on all of the lessons that the Lord has for us. But up top, let's just level set. We understand that RISPA was once married to King Saul. We understand that RISPA has how many sons, y'all? Most of y'all have been tracking, and you know. We know that RISPA had 2 sons. And because Saul broke covenant and broke a promise and went against something that David had promised some people, years later, after Saul had already passed, David comes and takes Rizpah's 2 sons and gives them to the enemy to try to bring resolution to their concerns. We understand that. So as we showed in the beginning of the lesson, Rizpah finds herself in the domino effect of someone else's choices. So as we slow the lesson all the way down, we're going to just stop right there and begin to toggle through some comments and questions that we have. So Rizpah finds herself in the domino effect of somebody else's choices. That's a whole lesson right there, right? When you find yourself in the domino effect of somebody else's choices, how do we manage that? What do we do with that? So let's give some tangibles for those of you who are in the audience and able to participate. What could that perhaps look like when you find yourself in the domino effect of someone else's choices? What are real life examples that women, particularly because that's largely who's here, what does that look like What are examples of that? Someone saying, what is that domino effect? Meaning someone else may have made a poor choice in their place of employment. And because they made that choice, they've become terminated. And now those finances impact the livelihood of you and your children. That's the domino effect of somebody else's choices. So that woman may find herself having to transition in her home. She may find herself having to put the children out of a particular daycare setting and put them into a lesser desirable one because the finances have shifted. That's what it can look like to see the domino effect of someone else's choices. I see someone listed, there's an incarcerated loved one. Absolutely. A loved one being incarcerated can impact other people's lives. Perhaps that is the mother, or that is the father. And that absenteeism, or it could be a sister or brother, but that absenteeism from that person being incarcerated can have financial repercussions on the people who remain. Like somebody may have to take in somebody else's child. Somebody may have to live without a parent being present. Somebody may experience just extreme emotional loss or distress because their loved one is in a situation that is less than desirable. So absolutely, that is a great example of having the repercussions and the impact of someone else's choices. I see the betrayal of a friend. Absolutely. Let's see, a husband who decides to make a bad decision. Absolutely. That husband can make a bad decision as it relates to the finances and the budget. We've had people who had to live with folk who don't know how to manage their money. And so they find themselves being put out of their homes or losing their transportation, or in some cases, even losing their marriage because of the choice of someone else. And it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop with just the material impact. We understand that it rolls over into sometimes our emotional well-being. We can pick up mental stress, and we can pick up emotional stress. Sometimes it even impacts our spiritual well-being. There are people who've had to shift where they go to church and go in ministry because they want to get in settings where they can be made whole, and perhaps being right there is too hard or it's too difficult in that moment. And so the kids are split, and like those domino effects, they happen. They're very much real. And so we get to understand where Rizpah is coming from. Can you imagine when David came to her home to get her sons? Rizpah's probably like, what in the world is going on? No, what and experience an extreme emotional distress because you're coming to make my innocent sons pay for a decision that their father made, right? So the domino effect, it is very real. And so we want to just pause right there to acknowledge any of you. Y'all, I got to stay right here because the Lord is pulling down stinking thinking and stubborn ways of just processing certain things. For those of you who then always associate negative things that are happening in your life with your own decisions, with your own choices. For where that is true, own it, right? And do different. But there's also space to hold, there's grace to hold space for the things that are perhaps in your life that really had nothing to do with your poor choice. There's some sis on this line. There's some queen in this community who needs to give herself grace, who needs to allow herself to really gather that God gives people free choice. That God gives all of us free choice. Everybody say free choice. Let's be well today. Let's do the work. Everybody say free choice. God gives all of us free choice. And so when we acknowledge that there are sometimes the residue of results in our lives that have nothing to do with our own individual choices, we give ourselves grace to understand that in the same way that God gives me free choice, he gives everybody free choice. And there are things, you guys, that you can pray about, you can hear from God about, but when you engage with another human being, that human being still has free choice. There are certain things that have happened in your life that the enemy has beat you up over, has made you feel as if you've missed God, as if somehow you didn't pray enough, you did not fast enough, did not seek wise counsel enough, didn't do enough of whatever that enough is. And this space today, as we just process our takeaways from this week, is to remind you that everybody has free choice. And there are certain things that may then have unfolded in your life for which you have been giving yourself a hard time about. And the absolute truth about that is those persons had free choice. So we get to say to you what we said yesterday. And if you're joining us for the first time, then we get to say to you, be free. Be free. Be free in your mind. Be free in your heart. Be free in your spirit. Stop condemning yourself. Stop beating yourself up about it and go ahead and be free. Be free. Be free. Another question that we have, are we tracking? I see y'all saying it, free choice, be free. Another question that we had is, how do I manage my emotions while I'm going through through the journey of the long time, through the journey of the long time. Basically, when what I'm experiencing, well, actually, let me bring it to this one. How do I manage my emotions when I am going through the journey of other people's choices? That's a better way to phrase the question. How do I manage my emotions when I'm going through the journey of other people's choices? How do I? Anybody ever been there where it's somebody else's choices and you're trying to figure out, so how do I stabilize myself? How do I navigate all of this? So here's one of those answers, you all, that may be contrary to some of the training and the ways that we've been taught to think. Manage our emotions. How do I really manage my emotions? There's an essence of validity to managing our emotions. But let me answer that in the quick short of just doing wellness work. Oftentimes, before we manage our emotions, we need to process living our emotions. Y'all gather that? Oftentimes, before we work so diligently to manage our emotions, we have to do the work of living our emotions. Everybody think with me right there. Think with me right there. Are you tracking? Often as we work through trying to manage our emotions, we have to do the work of living our emotions. Everybody say living. Living our emotions. Living our emotions. Management has an element of it that is all about fixing. It's all, I see saying, break that down. Management has an element of it that is all about fixing, that is all about controlling, that is all about trying to determine what you are supposed to do and how you are supposed to do it, right? Management. When you think about management in a setting, it's about controlling, ordering, designating, delegating. But we're not projects. Y'all hear me? You're not a project. You're a person. You're a person. So oftentimes when it comes to our emotions, and we've been taught, manage them, there's an element of validity, I will say again, to managing our emotions. But there's a piece that comes before that, because I am a person. I am not a project. There's an element of it that says, I got to live it. What does living our emotions actually mean? It begins with first identifying, what is this that I feel about what is happening in my life? It is completely acceptable and okay to say, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm let down, I'm extremely excited, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious. It is completely acceptable. Before I begin to try to control, navigate, delegate, and determine, it is completely acceptable to identify what I'm feeling. It's completely acceptable. I need us to understand that both in the cultural sense and in the faith sense. Y'all hear me? Because oftentimes when you are experiencing transitioning through a tragic moment, transitioning through a hard moment, transitioning through an overwhelming moment, particularly in church culture, we bully those emotions by giving what do I want to call it? By giving those responses that are supposed to numb how you feel. For example, I'm going to just say Jackie Murray because I see her putting something here. So I'll just say Jackie Murray, and I'll say Jackie may come to me with a deep concern about a particular thing that's happened. Oftentimes in faith communities, we will say, "Oh, we'll just believe God." Or we may say, you may be angry, you may be disappointed, you may be overwhelmed by something that's horrible or something that happened. And when you're trying to process it, the response may be, well, you think about how the Lord changed and delivered you. He did. But that's supposed to silence what I'm thinking and processing about this issue. So Jackie may have a concern that Gina, I don't know, robbed the bank, right, Jackie? You have a legitimate concern that Gina is on here teaching these Bible studies, and then you find out that Gina robbed the bank. And you're disappointed, and you're concerned about that. And when you're trying to process that, you may get a response from, let's say, from Kim, my closest girlfriend, who says, well, you just think about how the Lord has covered you. That's supposed to make you silence any disappointment that you have in Gina, right? Instead of holding space for us all to recognize that, yes, I am a whatever I am, and I've made some mistakes, and yes, God has covered me. But when I learn about the teacher who's sleeping with the student or molesting the child, I have a right to still express concern about that and live through my feelings, even though God has afforded grace and covered me for some of the stuff that I've been involved in. These tactics that we use in the culture, in the faith, they're often ways of silencing people really processing their feelings when they're going through a difficult journey. So if I cry and you immediately say to me, but don't you trust God? You're managing my feelings instead of allowing me to express my feelings and get to the core of what I'm processing and what I'm going through. If I come to you and I'm disappointed that the teacher was sleeping with the student, and you immediately remind me of God's grace that covers my sins, you're not processing and holding space for me to process my emotions. You're trying to manage them, but and you do all of that through the auspices of the Bible, of scripture, of text. Are y'all following? Living my emotions allows me to really process what I am feeling. That's the first step, to identify what I am feeling, and then to ask myself if what I am feeling is relative, it's honest, it's in integrity to the situation that I am going through. If I got a hangnail and I'm over here blowing up stuff because I'm so angry, then the emotion that I identify that I am feeling is not in alignment with the situation that I am going through. So I'm going to back it up and give you these steps. What first must happen if we live our emotions is the ability to hold space, to identify what am I feeling. Before you begin to try to manage what you're feeling and how you should respond, first you got to know and have the freedom to identify, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? Am I angry? Am I disappointed? Am I saddened? Am I let down? Am I encouraged? Am I overwhelmed? Am I anxious? What am I feeling? And when I am clear about what I am feeling, I get to ask myself, is this feeling, is this emotion fair for the situation that I am navigating through? And if I'm able to process that, then I get to land at, how do I then manage this? How do I, because the reality is, I'm just going to stay with Jackie. If Jackie is disappointed that Gina is the rob the bank when she got off of teaching the Bible study yesterday, she has the right to say, I'm disappointed. I get up and I listen to her teach every day, and then she over here robbing the bank. I get to say that. I get to acknowledge that without guilt, without shame, without being silenced because I've said that. Then Jackie gets to determine for herself, okay, so is this fair for this situation? And how am I going to respond? Maybe my response would have been, well, now I'm going to go blast Gina everywhere. Do I get to determine, is that the appropriate response to this emotion? She may say, now I'm going to really go pray for Gina. And I may try to even have a talk with her to let her know that I'm disappointed in that. And I'm going to pray for her. Is that an appropriate response to what I'm feeling? I know I've given a long answer because I want to play it out for you so that you can see that it is okay to first identify what I'm feeling. Number two, to really put it in context and say, is this a fair emotion for what I'm facing? And then based upon that, what should be my response? If I've identified that I'm angry, and in this situation, it's appropriate to be angry. But what is my anger going to look like? That's why the Bible in context says that we can be angry but not sin. Remember, he did not say don't be angry. He just said be angry, but sin not. So some emotions that we try to stifle, that we try to act as if they're inappropriate, those ways of being are not from our good daddy God. Those ways of being are not from our good daddy God. God has a wide spectrum of feelings and emotions that are completely appropriate to have. We have to allow room for that. There are moments when you really should have a righteous indignation. There are moments when you really should say, I'm angry about this, and I'm not going to allow this particular thing to have room in my life. I'm not going to allow this particular behavior to not be addressed. I'm angry about it. This is fair that I'm angry about it, and I am going to make sure that it is addressed. There are other moments when you can say, I'm disappointed. And guess what? It's fair that I'm disappointed about it. What I have to manage is my response to being disappointed about it. There are moments when you can say, I'm so excited. And guess what? Excitement is the appropriate feeling for this particular situation. Now I just got to determine what I'm going to do as a response to my excitement. Listen, because even in being excited because it's a great thing. Does that mean that as a form of celebrating, though, I'm going to go spend all of my rent money because I'm going to now have a party because I'm excited? Excitement is great. This situation warrants excitement, but I still got to manage my behavior to make sure that the behavior is appropriate and it aligns well for my life. I'm going to pause right there and make sure. I want y'all to kind of let me know. Let me know how it's landing and make sure that I'm articulating what I've grown to learn. Y'all know I'm practicing my counseling stuff on the good people. But yes, what I've grown to learn. And I see somebody chronicling it. Identify what I'm feeling. Process that emotion. See if that is the appropriate emotion for the situation. And then you manage the behavior. You manage the response to it. So I'm making sure I'm seeing. I see some weird tracking. So let me know if you're tracking. I'm gonna pause there because it's Talk to Me Thursday, but I tried to explain that in great detail because oftentimes with women, we are stereotypically put under this thing that, oh, y'all just too emotional. And then we spend our whole lives trying to undo the very way that we're wired. There is nothing wrong with your emotions, sis. There is nothing wrong with you being an emotional being. There's nothing wrong with you having feelings. There's nothing wrong with you having some sense of something about certain things that lands deeply for you. We've just got to learn how to navigate it in such a way that it pleases the Lord. So we're not over here trying to manage our emotions in as much as we're trying to understand and live our emotions in a God-pleasing way because God made us with our emotions. He did. I see you saying that. You're making it plain. You're making it crystal clear. Absolutely. Thank you for that. You get it now. You got to live. You got to live it. You say, I broke it down well. Thank you for that. You love that. Yes. People can make you feel guilty your entire life for being emotional about things. God created you as such. What we want to do is manage our responses to our emotions in such a way that they give God glory. So, yes, I can assess that I am angry. I'm angry about this particular thing that happened. And you know what? Anger is the right response. Anger is the right response to this particular situation. Now I'm going to figure out how to live out that anger in such a way that still gives God glory. There are moments when you are angry and you should speak up. But should you go around gossiping? No. But should you go and have that conversation with that individual? Yes. There are moments when you are disappointed. Does that situation warrant disappointment? Absolutely. Does someone have the right to guilt you then? Because that's what I've often seen, particularly in the body of Christ, where because you're disappointed in the minute, and I'm not saying don't reflect on our own past stuff and the grace that God has extended us, but even in that, that does not afford then for anything and everything to happen in your life and you're not supposed to be disappointed or not supposed to say anything because God has extended you grace. Okay, like that's not what that was intended to be about. It's not. And so, like, for example, Lee may be disappointed that so and so told her a whole bunch of lies. And then when Lee goes to express that to somebody, like, man, I'm so disappointed because she just told me a whole lot of lies. She just be lying and lying and lying. And then the person shuts Lee down by saying, well, haven't you ever lied before? Didn't God forgive you of lying? Those ways of being are manipulative. Those ways of being are ways to basically tell you to hush without just saying that. You have every right to have been covered by God's grace before in your life and still have expectations that people grow, that they do better, that they operate differently, just like you're growing and trying to do better. Everybody tracking with me right there? Like a lot of these things we have to do so that we can be well, so that you don't have a whole lot of us walking around holding issues and ideas and notions in our heart space and in our mind space and in our emotions, but we don't address any of it because it's all squelched and shut down. So how do I manage my emotions? I'm going to first say this answer. You're not so busy managing your emotions as you are living your emotions. And you live your emotions by first identifying what you are feeling or are sensing, whatever, however you would give terminology to your emotions. Then you determine, is that feeling or that emotion appropriate for what I'm going through? And based on that, you get to better manage your behavior, your response, because you are still responsible for demonstrating a behavior that pleases God. I see someone saying, after I have identified the situation and made the process clear, I quickly make adjustments where adjustments are needed, which sometimes I get it right. Most of the times I don't, but for God. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I see you saying, I'm tracking. I want to be well. I am the people. Somebody's acknowledging I'm the people. Yes. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, y'all. We're right here at our time, actually a little bit over our time. I hope that that was helpful. what we're incorporating into our study time together is this space to really ask questions, to really slow it down and say, what does it look like in my life? So we understand that Rispa had been going through something for a long time. And she had emotions, she had feelings, she had struggles with it. And we'll go deeper with Rispa even on next week to kind of look at it. But I hope today was helpful, particularly the piece where women as emotional beings have often found those emotions being like, oh, and God doesn't feel that way about our emotions at all. God has healthy ways for us to process what we're feeling, what we're going through, what we're like, all of that emotional space. He has healthy ways for us to do that go beyond hush. Remember the grace that I gave you, so don't get mad at nobody, don't be disappointed, don't be sad, don't hold nobody accountable. Just go with it because I gave you grace. That's not his way, y'all. That's not what God is over here doing. God desires that we be well and we be whole. Dear God, you've got mail. It's your daughters. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to talk, to speak, to process, to think. May you continue to give us insight, wisdom, and clarity as we do the work to be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. That's our prayer in Jesus' name. Y'all, see you in the morning for prayer right back here. As always, I honor the greatness that is on the inside of you. And real quick, thank you, Sarah, someone, a couple of people, Dolores. Thank y'all. Like I see them, I get a note or something when it comes through. Thank you. I appreciate you genuinely. All of you, not trying to miss names, but thank you for that. All right. See y'all in the morning.